and founder of Great Hill Capital. Thomas, thanks so much for joining us. I guess if you're going to use a boxing analogy, this is like two wicked left hooks. I mean, you have to deal with a trade dispute with the United States and then a pandemic. So where do you see China as far as its economic recovery at this stage?
Well, thanks for having me, Mike. As you've seen globally, one of the key data points I look at is the Citibank Global Economic Surprise Index, and that has been beating expectations. It measures the percentage of economic data globally that comes in better than expectations, and China is doing that. As you just heard, exports were up 0.5%, expectations were negative 1.5%. Imports were up 2.7%. Estimates were negative 10%. So we're seeing big beats. And it's not just imports, exports. It's the PMI services are in expansion at 58.5. The PMI manufacturing is in expansion at 51.2. And the GDP numbers will come out on Thursday. They're expecting plus 2.5% GDP growth in China after a negative 6.8 in Q1. So as we look globally, Mike, we're seeing this across the board. The U.S. Economic Surprise Index is at record highs. We're about 2 months behind China in the trajectory. And I think moving forward, as the lady said, the phase one is being implemented. And so long as the phase one stays intact, I think trade is going to move forward. And I think the other differences will be worked out.
Yeah, but what about the lingering impact of COVID? We've seen these clusters show up near the border with the DPRK in Jilin province. That was in May, a recent cluster in Beijing in June. Now there's a new batch in Hong Kong with Disneyland there closing down. Clearly, it's not the same as what we're seeing in the United States with these huge spikes in Arizona, Florida, and California, but it still has an economic impact. Illustrates the virus is tough to really kind of corral. It lingers. And that can impact consumers as well. So what do you see as the impact there?
Yeah, well, it's a bad news, good news situation. I think you pointed to it. These flare-ups are expected. We have better information on how to deal with them. As a matter of fact, in California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and Georgia, we saw big spike-ups around the beginning of July. And in the last 24 hours or more, each of those 5 states has actually registered lower new cases than their most recent peak. So it's promising, number one. Number two, the treatments are getting better, so you're seeing the death rate decline despite these regional flare-ups. And number three, we got some really good news in the past. Number one, after the close today, with Moderna, came out and said that their phase one vaccine results produced the antibodies, so that's a positive thing. We saw the positive results from the Pfizer vaccine will be fast-tracked for approval towards the end of October, which means we could see globally a vaccine in people's hands before the end of the year, which is much sooner than expected. So now that we have the capacity in the hospitals to treat these flare-ups and we have a vaccine in sight, the market is starting to discount that. You saw the Shanghai Composite is up close to 15% in the last 2 weeks. The United States, the NASDAQ made all-time highs. The S&P is about to go positive for the year. So a lot of good things are happening. And yeah, we're going to have these embers that flare up here and there, but we're better suited to treat it until that vaccine comes towards the end of the year. And then I think with all the global stimulus, fiscal stimulus, global coordinated monetary policy, I think we're going to see really good growth in 2021 for sure.
And Thomas, McKinsey always comes out each year with a connectedness index. It looks at the flow of goods, services, other factors, and China is always up there in the top 10. I think it's ranked 9th as one of the most connected countries in the world. So even if China is bouncing back, it is impacted by the fate of other countries. So these outbreaks around the world, how will that hamper exports? How do you factor that into this equation?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We all need each other. And the Global Economic Surprise Index that I referenced is showing us that on balance, that's the key. We are seeing regional flare-ups, as you saw, but they're being dealt with. But on balance, the economic data continues to come in better than expected. And that's why people are looking at the 2.5% GDP number for China this week. Now people are saying maybe it's going to be better than expected because all of the global data on the whole is coming in better than expected. And that would be a good thing for China. It would be a good thing for the rest of the world, as we're seeing in the United States, continued beats. We've already already regained about a third of the jobs that were lost. So things are moving in the right direction for sure.
But as you see, California scaling back again, that could happen in Texas and Arizona. So this is always in flux, though. I mean, you're looking at it from an optimistic standpoint, but there is the chance that things could go south as well.
Yeah, well, you have the dimmer, the governor of California mentioned that they're using a dimmer switch. So basically what they've done is they've closed down places where people congregate, like bars, indoor restaurants, and they've elected to do schooling from home in the fall for different counties. But they haven't shut down all businesses. They haven't reversed everything. And interestingly enough, what was odd about that decision that came yesterday was that it comes after 2 days of cases coming off the recent peak. So new cases are actually coming down in California. That's not to say they won't spike back up, but the direction is promising. And if it continues in that direction, like we beat it in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, the numbers just continue to plummet. I think they'll be able to, go back and reopen some things as well moving ahead. So it doesn't just work one way where they reclose. If they have to hit the dimmer switch, as the governor referenced, they can turn it back on equally as quickly.
Thomas Hayes joining us from New York. Thanks so much.